Hey friends, welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City a lovely place to live. I am your host, Colin Johnson, with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Realty here in Johnson City, Tennessee. And we've been slinging houses. It's been a busy spring. We got lots of people looking. So if you're thinking of selling your house, reach out to me because I could probably sell it in a heartbeat like that. But we're not talking about houses this morning. Again, we are finding out what makes Johnson City just an awesome place to live, and it's the people and the places. And so we have, and the flavors, and we've got a really special guest on today, Jordan Bailey with Weirdough.
Yes, Weirdough.
Weirdough. Are you a weirdo?
Very much so.
I am too.
I think everyone has a little type of weirdness to them.
Right.
And I think it's something to be celebrated and to just put out in the forefront. Like, I'm a weirdo. This is what I love and what I'm nerdy about. And then that way you find the best friends through those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Johnson City Living, you know the questions that come in.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about Johnson City?
I'm a newcomer to Johnson City. I will be here in Tennessee for 6 years in July. And only about 2 years ago did I really start plugging myself into the community here. And I have a unique perspective about just this region in general, just because I work in marketing out of Cumberland Marketing in Kingsport. Mm-hmm. But what I've noticed is of all the organizations, the nonprofits, the local businesses that we work with in marketing, I've noticed that it's just about a community that's for growth and connection, especially coming from a larger market like Atlanta, mm-hmm. where I was a student, graduated out of SCAD, wanted to find a great job, but it was so competitive and it was very dog eat dog. No one would help you. Mm-hmm. And then I moved here and it's like, here's resources and here's a community and here's people who are cheering you on. And so I thought I was going to be here for a couple of years and then move on to someplace bigger, but I want to be part of growing a community here that's special and unique for me and for others.
Yeah, well, it's cool because we get a lot of people moving to the area mm-hmm. because it's attractive to people for some reason. And so it's neat to see someone younger who's getting out of school, getting a business started, and still attracted to the area. Because we get lots of people like, oh, it's a great place to retire, cost of mm-hmm. living's low, we've got no income tax, state income tax. And then we've got a lot of like health benefits around. And so, mm-hmm. but you know, when you're younger, you're not like, I don't need to worry about somebody who can fix my hip one day, you know. So it's cool that you were drawn to. Was there anything specific that drew you to Johnson City or the area?
So my mom got a job at NFS in Irwin.
Yeah.
So I'm Texan, was born in Amarillo, Texas, raised with flatland, desert climate, no trees. I didn't know what else was out there.
Good news is you never had to rake your yard. So
no, we didn't. We didn't have any trees or any leaves.
We have lots of leaves.
Yes. And so when I was in Atlanta, she moved here, and we were really close for the first time in years. And so I'm like, I'm going to take a weekend trip to see Mom and see her new house. Mm. And I'm driving and I'm getting closer and I'm like, where is the Tri-Cities? And then I'm like in the mountains and the colors and the sunrises and sunsets and the people. And she kind of joked one day, like, we should move in together and like, we can be roomies or something. And I just brushed it off because I thought at the time I was loving Atlanta. But then I just had this, so I Googled, creative agencies in the Tri-Cities, and I found 3, and I just blindly submitted my portfolio to all 3 of them. Didn't hear back from 2, but Cumberland Marketing, within like 30 minutes, emailed me and said, hey, are you still in town? We want to talk. They didn't have an Indeed post. They weren't really looking for anyone. I had such a great conversation with Chris Bowen, the owner. Mm-hmm. I think my interview lasted almost 2 hours just because we talked about, like, what do you want out of company culture? What do you want to build? How important is community to you? You don't get those questions in Atlanta, They're
like, what can you do for us?
Exactly. And how little can I pay you for the bare minimum of your effort,
Does $5 an hour sound good?
Yes. So I was blown away by just that shift of cultural thinking. And I got back to Atlanta and just felt I think I have to move. Mm-hmm. And so I gave it a shot, was blessed with an opportunity here at Cumberland Marketing, and within a month of that interview, I was here. And just, I even, like, they helped me find an apartment that was super close to work. I mean, you just don't get that other places. And
Right.
so, for the first, I would say 4 years I was here, I kind of had a bad attitude about, coming to a smaller town. And I'm obviously a little bit of a foodie. So I'm like, where's the food scene? Where are, the cultural things like museums, concerts? I was missing the amenities of a bigger city. And then it dawned on me, if I want to experience that, I think I need to be part of the charge that leads that.
Yeah.
But also in the past 5 or 6 years, there's been a huge growth in this area. So it's been really awesome to kind of see other people pop up and try to elbow my way into being part of that community as well.
Yeah, it's a blessing that we have, people that are coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to open a new restaurant or a new bakery or a new coffee shop or new breweries. We have that happening a lot too, it's just really cool, the growth that we're starting to see, and it's opening up those, like you said, opportunities to try new things. And I wondered if I could get your perspective maybe on why you feel like, just because you've been here a shorter time, like, and why you feel like the people here just want to help, like you, like, where do you feel like that? I mean, obviously it's a volunteer state, but why do you feel like we want to do that as much as we do?
Great question. I think I'm going to reference some, weirdo, self-proclaimed nerdy foodie. I love watching food shows because it's not just about, this is how you make a Béarnaise sauce. It's a lot of, this is the cultural importance of this type of cuisine in this community. And so I have a great friend, Chef Travis Milton. He does hickory on Nice Wonder Farm and Vineyard,
Nice.
Bristol, Virginia.
Yeah, I haven't been there, but want to go.
It's amazing. And then he also is kind of connected with Sean Brock, who's in Nashville. One of the great chefs in the United States right now. They both have been on a couple different shows talking about the importance of Appalachian food and cuisine, because I think that's a cuisine that gets overlooked so easily. And so a lot of
people wonder if we even had food.
Correct. And I think they have these negative ideas of what Appalachia is. And so when I grew up calling it Appalachia.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a lot of education on it, and I thought it was just beautiful how they both Sean Brock and Travis talk about the importance of like really growing your food, and like, okay, I'm going to grow these green beans if you can grow this. And then in the community they share.
And like we're just kind of blended together.
Absolutely. You help feed each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, if that's the Appalachian spirit, then it's alive and well in Johnson City.
Yeah, I think it is. And so we just love helping each other, really, is what it boils down to. And it's just beautiful. I think it's the way community is supposed to be done. I really encourage people who do move here not to, to get involved. Don't just hide out and be a hermit. Get involved and help out your community, help out your fellow neighbor. I mean, the Lord was very clear, love your neighbor, and so I think it's that spirit here is it's just something awesome. And it just makes it attractive, and that's why we're getting more and more people here. So, yeah. Well, let's talk about Weirdough.
Please.
How do you spell it? Tell our listeners, because they can't see it I guess they can see it in the show notes, but they can't see you right now. So tell us, because it's spelled a little different than Weirdough.
Yes. So a big part of my personality is dad jokes and puns.
I love dad jokes.
I love it. Yes. And so it's probably annoying if you're my coworker and I have to pull at least 5 a day. But Weirdough is spelled WEIRDOUGH. So dough. And I like to say, a lot of people will ask me, hey, can you do a cake for me? I always say I do dough, not batter.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. So I love pastries. I'm getting into baking bread, but there's a lot of people who do great bread. I don't feel like that's a space that I need to try to be in. But a lot of cookies and pastries. And a lot of what I'm aiming to do with Weirdough is to not just do a better version of things that are available already. The amazing Lazy Lady Bakes. She has some great pastries.
Oh my gosh.
I don't really feel like I need to up her croissant, But I love to experiment with more global flavors and types of cuisines. And so I'm experimenting with a duck fat cookie, which is really interesting, kind
Yeah.
of scary for some people.
No, I love duck fat.
Yeah,
It's delicious.
yes, duck fat cookies. I try to infuse cool flavor pairings together.
Yeah.
So I gave you earlier.
I know. I'm gonna pick these up and let you
Yeah.
just tell me about them because they're beautiful.
Thank you.
They are. I mean, I can't wait to eat one. Carly's gonna be excited. Her favorite thing on the planet, I think, is a cookie. So
Yes, I mean, it's what's great about a cookie is you can enjoy it for yourself, but they're great to give as
they
gifts.
are great to give.
But these are Italian ricotta lemon cookies. The ricotta is an interesting addition to a cookie, but
Yeah, a
it
little
creates,
cheese.
yeah, it gives it a light airiness. It's a super soft, fluffy cookie.
Is that
and
whipped
then
into or like you bring it
It's-
into the dough?
It's one of the wet ingredients
Okay.
that before I incorporate the flour,
Yeah.
correct? And then I top it with a lemon glaze with lemon zest. I candy lemon wheels. If you candy lemon wheels, the bitterness will come out of the rind, so you can actually eat the rind as well. Yeah. And then bee pollen.
Yeah.
And so I think those are all, I mean, I get my bee pollen from Food City. Those are all ingredients that are so easy to get, but
Yeah.
you might not think about putting them together. So I get excited about trying, a lot of things that I've seen in Atlanta haven't really transferred here to a smaller market. And so I just want to be someone who experiments with things and brings things that you don't necessarily see everywhere.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also not a brick and mortar bakery. I'm just
Right.
out of my house. And so I'm more of like a small batch. If you have an event, maybe a catered thing. But so it's all like I can build the menu for you. It's not, I'm going to bake this and you can choose whatever it's already made. We can develop something together.
That's cool. Yeah. Where do you feel like you get your inspiration for these awesome flavor combinations?
Ooh.
Or do you try some stuff and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have mixed bacon with, I don't know. Everything's good with bacon. That was a
Yeah,
bad
I have a
example. Sorry. Yeah.
Bacon is a
Like
hard.
pudding and starch or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Bread pudding.
Well, speaking of bacon, I do have a great bacon cookie. You can find those sometimes at Model City Tap House in Kingsport.
Yeah.
But I also just make them whenever you guys order them from me from my Instagram. But my inspiration comes a lot from just being obsessed with looking at other culinary artists, I'm going to call them, because it's everything from people who develop recipes for like Eating Well, Food Network. Instagram is a great inspiration for me because I can follow these people who are like me, who don't have a platform on national television, but who are content creators who are creating things in their kitchens,
Yeah.
who are bringing their genius to millions of people through Instagram platform. So yeah, and I'm a photographer, love print, and I subscribe to magazines like an older.
No, I love holding a magazine. It's just
Yes.
it's something, it just feels good.
Yeah, I'm very much a thing person.
Yeah.
So I love, I get, I think, 3 monthly food magazines, and I will sit and look at every page, and I love food photography, and that's, I think, half of what Weirdough is. I do all my food styling and photography myself.
That's cool.
And that's really what started Weirdough.
Yeah.
I was just practicing food photography, and then people said, hey, can we buy what that is?
Yeah.
So that's how it happened. But
Now,
yeah, inspiration comes from a lot of places.
yeah, I think it always, anywhere you go, you visit, you see things, magazines is a great way. The Instagram is just amazing now too, just because you can see something from some guy or gal all the way across the other side of the world that you would never interact with. It's just, I think that's what I love about social media and how it connects us in that regard. And so I think if there's more of that going on, it's a good thing.
Yes.
There's obviously the evil side of it as well. So you were involved in a contest here in Johnson City, right?
I was.
Let's talk
yes.
about that a little bit.
I cannot recommend I think they do it twice a year, so that's kind of like a fall and then a spring 10-week program called Co-Starters.
Co-starters.
Co-Starters was founded in Chattanooga, but I think it might be international. I know for sure it's a national program
That's
or kind of curriculum, but
Okay.
that chambers of commerce or other, entrepreneurial resource centers can use and bring to their cities. And it's basically a curriculum that lasts 10 weeks. Each week has a different theme. And there's guest speakers, fellow entrepreneurs who come in and talk to people who have an idea. You can be just in concept phase and have no tangible experience with trying to start your business. I had already been operating out of my kitchen for about 6 months when I started Co-Starters. So I was in startup phase.
Okay.
But they go through everything that you need to know about starting a business, including all the financial stuff and just the legal things. And it was a great experience. And at the end of the 10 weeks, you have an opportunity to participate in a pitch competition. And you have judges, typically other local entrepreneurs in the area. And what I think is really great about Tennessee in general is I think it's one of the only states that has a statewide entrepreneurial grant. So for our region, Sync Space out of Kingsport, I think you probably know Heath Gwynn. I think everyone might know Heath Gwynn. Yeah. He's a mover and shaker and is really focused on bringing help and resources to entrepreneurs in the area. He was kind of the liaison between the state of Tennessee entrepreneurship grant and the Northeast region.
Okay.
And so because of his facilitating of the Co-Starters program, we had $4,500 worth of money that could be awarded to any of the people who were pitching. And so they decided to divvy it up however they wanted to. And I'm so grateful and blessed.
So we're just going to give it all to you.
No. They picked the top three. And I for sure thought someone else was going to win. So they announced third, they announced second, and then I just kind of...
You're like, I didn't even make the cut. Great.
I just assumed, I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad that I just tried. And then they said, well, Weirdough.
Yeah, you're like,
and I got first. And so I got $2,500.
That's awesome.
Which is going towards a lot of upgrading my kitchen equipment and buying more duck fat because that is not cheap. And just little things that are really going to help me become more legitimate and be more efficient.
Yeah.
And that was a couple of weeks ago, so I'm still kind of...
That's awesome. Figuring out what you're going to do, and you're
Yes.
still on your high. I can see you're glowing from that
Yes.
win, for sure.
Yes.
So for somebody who's listening, maybe who is a startup entrepreneur, or maybe a little bit like you were already going, what would be some advice to give somebody to get going with Co-Starters, or what would be a little advice for them?
Well, I would say definitely look at what Co-Starters is, and even if right now there's not a Co-Starters class until the fall. So if you're looking for resources, Diana Cantler, Bob Cantler, they're a married couple. They're very well known in the Tri-Cities, and they're a great connector of people.
Yeah.
I don't know what Bob's title is, but he's with the chamber. But just walk into the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I think he runs it. Yeah.
Yeah, but just walk in and just say, I have questions. I need resources. Who do I talk to? And they're just going to give you a list of names and cards. And, of course, you have to do that work yourself.
Sure.
But those resources are there for people who want them. And you just have to ask. So I would say that you can definitely go to Sync Space. Heath Gwynn will be another resource for that. There's another organization in Kingsport that's kind of like a WeWork space. It's also in downtown. But I'm not sure about Bristol area, but there are people in this area whose entire livelihood is about helping entrepreneurs. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just winging it, and I was just doing what made me happy. And so I had the passion side of it down. I was like, okay, how do I not get in trouble with taxes later?
Right.
That's really what I
Like there's a big fear of the tax man coming and to take all your money.
Yeah, I just wanted to secure whatever I need to do to make sure I can still do what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, that's smart.
But through Co-Starters and the inspiration and just talking about scaling up and pivoting and listening to your audience, I realized I don't want to just be a home baker.
Yeah.
So I have plans to expand to hopefully finding a commercial kitchen that I can rent.
Okay.
I might talk to you about that.
Yep.
And there's also little things that I'd love to do beyond what I'm doing now. But I wouldn't have had any of those ideas if it wasn't for being around those people and having them ask me really good, hard questions that had to force me to identify who am I, what do I want to become, and are the things that I'm doing right now going to lead me to that ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So if you're starting out, if you have an idea, there's literally nothing wrong or no harm in just asking someone, hey, what do you think about this and how do I get started?
Yeah, and there are people who want to help, I think. And back a little, I'm going to say a few years ago, there was a SCORE, which was a senior kind of advisory group that wanted to help entrepreneurs. They were an older, like if you had been in the, in some industry for a while and, you wanted to volunteer there, you could. And so much like this, you could go sit down with them, they'll look at your business plan, help you develop a business plan and that kind of thing. So I don't know if they're still going or not. We'll have to do a little research on that and see if they're still around. But yeah, I think having somebody continually holding you accountable to your goals and that kind of thing too is extremely helpful. Do you have anybody still like asking you the tough questions?
I do have, so I would say the second part to your question, and I know I'm long-winded, so I apologize.
No.
I am very pumped about this. I'd like to share
I
it.
can tell she's lighting up.
So the other part of, so maybe you don't go to the Chamber of Commerce first if you just have an idea.
Right.
If you see someone else in your community that might be doing something similar to what you're doing, just ask if you can talk to them about it. I'm a big believer in rising waters raise all boats. You know? So
abundance mentality. There's tons of business out there.
There's room for all sorts
and
of.
you can't sell every cookie in town. Like it's just not going to ever happen.
Yeah, and another thing I think is so cool about what I want to do with Weirdough is facilitate pop-up shops where people come together and maybe I get to do an event with other bakers around. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't try something like that. But just reaching out to people, and that was something that I learned at SCAD. One of my assignments.
Tell everybody the acronym for SCAD.
SCAD is the Savannah College of Art and Design. I went to the Atlanta campus.
Okay.
And
I didn't know they had an Atlanta campus.
I think they started that in 2008.
Okay.
So they have campuses in Hong Kong and in France.
What?
Yes, it's an international school. And if I had the funds, I would have gone to both of them. But but I was barely surviving on like popcorn and ice. And
we're gonna eat ice for dinner or popcorn. Let's see.
Yes. So it was very tough, but I made it through. But one of the most inspiring things about one of my senior professors, I just loved a lot of artists that were doing things that I wanted to produce. And so she was like, just reach out, write them a letter. They're not going to answer me. They might. And so I actually reached out to a couple different artists that I absolutely love, just to tell them, thank you for making what you make. You inspire me. And 2 out of the 3 artists actually responded. And I currently still kind of have a friendship with Mary Ellen Matthews, who's the photographer for SNL, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
So she'll respond to some of my stuff sometimes. So you just don't know. People.
Oh, man.
Even if they're famous and they're successful, they still are people who like connection and will talk to you.
Yeah, so. And then like, what if everybody was like, oh, they're too busy, and I mean, they never get to connect with anybody that unless it's just like on their side of it, and so it feels good to be appreciated, and so and I love that gratitude mantra. Like I'm always trying to be grateful, and I heard a number of times you can't be angry and grateful at the same time. So if you're showing somebody gratitude, like even if you're angry with somebody, if you just try and think of good things about them or how they, you can get out of that mindset pretty quickly. It's a quick shift. It's hard, but the more you do it, the quicker you can get out of it. So I'm always trying to stay in gratitude, and so you're grateful for these artists and the beautiful work they created, and then showing them that is just, sharing love with them. And so they're like, thank you so much. And they want to connect. And then in turn, they want to give you gratitude and help you however they can.
Absolutely.
And so that's awesome.
So as far as someone who's asking me the hard questions, I have a couple of mentors. One in particular is a great pastry chef in Greenville, South Carolina. And then I also have some other friends who are kind of in spaces that, I mean, they're like on Food Network shows or whatever. And so I just ask them questions sometimes. But so there's like the mentor on the food side and then the mentor on the business side.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of people who are still asking me, but I kind of miss co-starters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe you can be a volunteer there and help out with
Possibly.
the next
I'll have
round.
to ask
and
Diana Cantler if you're listening.
I think she would probably say, "Come on." Tell me about like at SCAD. Did you learn how to cook as well, or so? Where does your cooking background come from? Is that mom?
Not at all. Not even anyone in my family. I know my grandmother was a great baker, but she passed when I was 17, and I never really got to access that part of her.
Yeah.
So this is something that I was hoping I could talk about, switching gears a tiny bit.
Yeah.
While I was a foodie in Atlanta, I worked as a craft cocktail bartender in Atlanta. The food scene, the cocktail scene there was chef's kiss, which is another reason why when I moved here, I was kind of a grumpy pants for a little bit, thinking, there's nothing here for me. And I was a hermit, like you kind of mentioned earlier. I didn't get
say
out
you
or
were a
whatever.
hermit.
No, but I mean,
I tell people not to become hermits.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
But so I knew I was in the kitchen making syrups and tinctures and stuff with other chefs who are doing really cool things. And so I've had a love for food and the service industry for a long time. But when I moved here, I didn't really know how to cook 6 years ago. And I was kind of suffering with my mental health a little bit. And part of something a therapist told me was if you need kind of a structure to your day when you're at home, I would put an alarm 4:45, make sure like I kind of wrap up what I'm doing at the office, make a plan for what I'm going to cook because I need to learn how to nourish myself, right?
Yeah.
And so I started with HelloFresh subscription boxes and worked on, did Gordon Ramsay's masterclass.
Okay.
Learned my knife techniques, and baking came way later. I'm actually more of a cook than a baker. It's just
nice.
harder to sell, a really good braised pork loin out of my home.
Mitch and I would buy one right now, probably.
So I just learned slowly about just really good basic techniques and then realized I'm good at this. I love the plating aspect. I loved sharing my journey online.
Yeah.
And it just grew from there. And I
Good for
started
you.
reading recipe books and watching the nerdy food shows and learning about gastronomy. And a lot of the things I wanted to attempt to do, I can't because I don't have the kitchen equipment for the space. But what has been really cool around the time that I started Weirdough, David Wiley out of the Serenity Knoll Farm or Serenity Knoll Cooking School.
Yeah. Heard that name.
In Jonesboro, which I think he would be a great guest on
Yeah.
this podcast as well.
David, come on.
So he kind of reached out and saw that I was posting a lot of, hey, you want to buy these cookies? And he's like, hey, do you want to try a cooking class? And so he welcomed me into the Serenity Knoll Cooking Kitchen.
Okay.
I've done 4 classes now.
Cool.
A few of them have been like galettes, which is a free-form pastry.
That's so good.
I did a sweet and a savory. One was an apple ham Gruyere with thyme galette, which is so good. And I showed people how to make a really good flaky pie crust. But then another one that I love to do was this chashu pork ramen with a miso broth. And I would do a 4-hour braised pork belly the night before and then just bring it to the kitchen, show people how I made it, but then they would make their own broth and noodles.
Cool.
So what's so cool is that, again, it's that community. It's like
Yeah.
he just saw me posting stuff online and said, I see what you're doing. Do you want to help? But it all started from me needing to do something at home. And so I just thought, I'm going to learn how to cook. And now it's something that I get to share with people and make people happy with. And it's keeping me accountable to my own, like I get to push myself to be creative. And a year ago, I would have never thought I would be on a podcast talking about my little side hustle. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can tell you're getting emotional about it, and it's awesome how things just kind of develop and grow. And when you find your passion, it's just really, it's neat. I think we were all created to create something and do something and help somebody, and so yeah, um, that's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to wrap it up a little bit, but tell the listeners how they can connect with you if they want to order one of these awesome cookies. Do you have like a website, or what's the way to do that?
no website yet. I
Okay.
don't know if I will do that until
I know that's kind of old school now. Do you have a website?
well, I mean, I think where I'm still just operating out of my house. I'm trying to not grow too quickly and then burn out. I want to be sure that I'm developing the best limited quality small batch orders.
Right.
And so my Instagram
Okay.
is that _ weirdo _ Jordan.
Okay.
And then that's really it. I mean, I have an Instagram. I have a link tree there where you can, send me some tip. That's a little extra dough if you'd like.
Send some dough. Yeah.
But a lot of what I post are kind of menu items. But I'm constantly developing, trying to develop new things, and so I'll
Gotcha.
do big drops of something, and then maybe one weekend I'll sell, 20 batches of something new for
Oh, wow.
people to experience. Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, if somebody's even dreaming up something, just reach out to you and see if that's something
Absolutely.
they want to do or
Yeah.
try. And I'm sure they can just scroll through your feed and like a menu, just go, oh, you made this back in
Yeah.
May, and this looks really good, and I want a dozen of those. Or yeah. So not just cookies, but what are some of the other things they can order?
Well, I love doing pastries as well, and so not necessarily croissants, but a lot of hand pies. I love doing hand pies, and then I have these caramel apple ring pastries that I do with a puff pastry, and it looks like a little flower. And then I've lately been doing a sweet potato caramel. So
Yum.
that's really good. But I like playing with puff pastry as well because that can take on a lot of different structures depending on how you kind of fold it and wrap it around stuff. So yeah, I mean, with
All kinds of
pastry and
different
cookies.
things. Okay.
Yeah, and some savory things as well. I'm developing a curry and cardamom cookie. So again, kind of experimenting with those more global flavors
Yeah.
and bringing things that, or maybe like a savory cookie.
Yeah, that's
don't
interesting. You
necessarily
don't think
see-
of a curry cookie. Carly loves curry, so and she loves cookies,
too.
so that'd be good. We may be
Yeah.
ordering some of those.
I don't have the texture just right yet.
Just
but
right yet.
The
flavors are good.
flavors there.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, last question. What gets you fired up about like just life in Johnson City or Tri-Cities and the area? What fires you up? Like gets you out of bed?
Oh man, I think just the fact that I am still new here, and so I'm still learning about different organizations and opportunities that are here. There's a lot of nonprofits, ways to volunteer. I mean, the Art Struck Festival that was open a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, was really. Someone asked me to volunteer, and I said, okay. I made friends that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm seeing artists. I didn't get out of my house for like 4 years
Yeah.
to really find out what this community was about.
Yeah.
But as soon as I did, they're welcoming me back. And so Founders Forge has been great. Spark
yeah.
Plaza, the
those
whole slew of organizations that want to host events for people to come together. I mean, there's no shortage of that. And so I get excited about just meeting new people and seeing how I can contribute to the community as
Yeah,
well.
that's the same thing that I get fired up about. Is just meeting new people, helping them out, and just loving our community well. Well, it's been a pleasure, Jordan.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
coming on the podcast.
It was an honor.
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure the listeners did as well. Till next time, I'm Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. We would love to help you become a part of the community. Yeah, if you're thinking about building wealth through real estate, we love doing that too. And we'll manage your property. We'll help you find a great rental. We'll do whatever you want real estate related, or we'll just connect you with great people like Jordan and Mitch and our awesome community. So just reach out, and I would love to help you. Have a great day, and thanks for listening to the podcast.